Okay, I'm recording it.
All right. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to jump on the Zoom. This is a rare opportunity to have Kelsey with us. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for doing this too. You're basically the main event, but I just wanted to see if you could just talk a little bit more about you, like your life before It Works and why you chose to join. And then, I know you have so much knowledge, so please just, indulge us.
Yes. I actually am going to have my husband tell our story because I tell our story all the time, and I am. Come on, no, you're not a trippin'. You're going to be part of the main event. Yeah, come on.
Husband, tell us a story.
Yeah, this is Brian.
Hello there.
So tell him what our life was like before It Works.
What would you like me to start?
Just start.
Okay. Before we joined It Works, as Kelsey has probably told you guys before, we had a pretty good life. No complaints at the time. I was a college basketball coach. We were new parents of a daughter. Kelsey was working at a bank, and we certainly made enough to make ends meet and live a lifestyle that was honestly above our means in a lot of ways. Not to say that we were quote unquote trying to keep up with the Joneses, but we both had a lifestyle that we had kind of become accustomed to, partially because of being a newly married couple without kids and both having, pretty respectable jobs and making decent money. And then we moved, and all of a sudden we were making a little bit less money, and we added another mouth to feed to our equation. And we still were trying to live the same lifestyle that we lived, but on less money. And we quickly realized that the money didn't go as far. We weren't saving any. And it was starting to get frustrating because we felt like we were doing everything that we were supposed to do from the standpoint of, going to school and doing, this and that and working, somewhat traditional jobs, but we weren't really getting ahead. And I guess you can say we weren't living our best life, so to speak. And so then we kind of made the decision that, maybe there was something else out there, a way to just add to our pot, a way just to an additional $500 just to kind of alleviate some of the pressure, from daycare, whether it be to allow Kelsey to feel like it wasn't a big deal to get her hair and nails done, her nails done a couple times a month, or her hair done once a month or whatever. And, for you ladies, I'm sure how those expenses can add up. And, I'm seeing that on the bill every month, and I'm saying, whoa, that does add up. But, finding a way to get an extra $500 just to cover some additional things, just to allow us to kind of be even again. And so we decided to kind of take a little bit of a flyer on It Works after having a conversation about just that, a side hustle, a way to make more money. And Kelsey knew, of a girl who she had followed on social media for a while, Erin Tweed. She knew her husband, Kyle Tweed, from college, and she knew that Erin was somewhat successful in the business. Didn't know what success exactly was, but reached out to Kyle, asked, how much is she making? He said she's making $8,000 to $10,000 a month. And, obviously from our standpoint, that was a lot of money. And we figured, well, if she's making $8,000 to $10,000, we definitely could make our $500. And so a $99 investment at the time wasn't an unreasonable request from our standpoint. We never looked at $99 as being too much for an opportunity to try. Not that $100 is nothing. It's certainly something. But what it was for us is, that's not going out to eat a couple of times for 1 month. or not making a Target run and buying a bunch of stuff that 2 weeks later we don't even know what we bought. It was just a matter of saying, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to cut out something else for a minute, and we're going to kind of try to bet on ourselves and, you know, bet on her and kind of see where it took us.
Yeah. And I think like the cool thing about it is like, I remember Brian saying like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, like, you better do it. Like don't like half-ass it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of guys can become skeptical when they've seen people join a business and 2 weeks later it's done. Like they stop posting about it because they get discouraged or whatever the case might be. But when he asked me that question, I felt like a sense of responsibility, you know, I was accountable to him. And, you know, when you're married, like you obviously want to like impress your husband and not be just some dud who just kind of gets discouraged and, you know, listens to what anybody else says. And so I think from that standpoint, like he pushed me in that way to be like, okay, like I'm going to take this seriously. And I remember Aaron told me like one of the company's mottos is give us a year and we'll change your life. And I was like, I'm not patient enough for a year, but I'll give you 6 months and I'll give you like a good 6 months. Like I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And I really like did whatever she told me to do. And although I was nervous, although like I didn't know what people would say about me, I got made fun of, like whatever, the whole list of whatever excuse you can come up with to not do it, you just have to do it in spite of. Because, you know, we all know what it's like to quit something. But do you know what it's like if you don't quit something? Mm-hmm. Do you know what happens if you just keep going in spite of? And so that's kind of like the motto that I took. And I always say, you know, I'd rather have an oops than a what if. And that's really the motto that I took with the business is, you know, I could keep watching this girl make money and say, well, what if I just would have tried this? Or I can just hop in. And if it doesn't work out, what's the worst that happens is that I tried these wraps that I was trying to get skinny with anyways, you know, and I lost a little bit of weight and tried some products and said, oops, that didn't work out. But I've also spent oopsies at Target and oopsies at other places that didn't necessarily kill me, you know? And so I think when we, you know, kind of take a step back and in the grand scheme of things, realize what do we have to lose is not that much compared to what do we have to gain. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped in and you can tell them what happened.
Well, we jumped in and it took her a couple weeks to get her first customer. But despite the fact that, you know, we didn't hit the ground with, you know, a ton of customers and a ton of distributors and all those things, what I did see from her was a real dedication and a focus. And I was inspired by her effort early on. And, you know, I saw a fire being lit in her that that she wanted to go after this thing. And, you know, her determination, man, I honestly think that the fact that she didn't really sign customers and distributors early ended up being like a little bit of a benefit for her because she kind of had to gut it out early on. And she had to make a choice that it's not going to come easy at all. Her first check was $34. And, you know, $34, you know, to us, we had put in 100, made 34 back. So, I mean, it wasn't bad. You know, it allowed her to, you know, kind of treat herself to a couple of Starbucks and, you know, maybe a half of a manicure. So it wasn't that bad at all. And
I think we realized the legitimacy of it then. Mm-hmm. It's like your first paycheck and you're like, whoa, because, you know, you join and it's okay to still be skeptical, right? It's okay to still be like, is this for real? Like,
how does this money deal really work?
Right. Like, do we really get paid or is this like people say we do? But, you know, and so when I saw like the email, like you got a payment from It Works, like whatever. And I saw it go into our account. I was like, if I can make 34, why can't I make 1,000? And why can't I make 2,000? And, you know, you just kind of, it becomes a little bit more real. So that was like a reason too, why I thought, the $34 was like a big thing. And I always say like a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. Right. And so because I was grateful and not greedy and saying like, oh, well, oh my gosh, my first paycheck, like I put in so much work, you don't realize that like in a business like this, there's a video, I'll have to send it to you guys, but it's called, Are You a Coin Pusher or an Entrepreneur? And so what the point of it is, a coin pusher is like, it's a horse, like let's say you're at a horse at a grocery store, the little things where you put the coins in and the horse goes back and forth. That's how we're used to making money, is you go to work and you get paid, just like you put the penny in and the horse goes back and forth. Right. And so you go to work and you get paid, and you go to work and you get paid, but you're never getting benefit outside of you putting the coin in or outside of you leaving work. Now with this business and with really any entrepreneurial business, it's you work and you work and you work and you work and you get paid a little bit. And then you work and you work and you work and you get paid a little bit more. And then you work and you work and you work and you get paid. And then you work and you work and you get paid. And then you work and you get paid. And then you work and then you get paid and you get paid and you get paid and you get paid, because all of it is never for naught. Nothing that you do in this business, unless you quit, is never just for nothing, right? Because the person you messaged 3 weeks ago, you're planting that seed. Now, who knows when it's going to sprout, and you can't control when it's going to sprout, but you can control how many seeds you plant. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the biggest thing is, you have to put in that consistent effort to get consistent results, and if you treat this like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. Mm-hmm. But if you treat it like a business, it's going to pay you like a business. And that's the cool thing is like, and I never want anybody to feel like I pull the wool over their eyes and say, oh, join this business and you're going to make $25,000 a month, because that's not what it is. It's join this business and you have the opportunity to make $25,000 a month if your work ethic is willing to match that. And not a work ethic for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, but a work ethic that's going to pay off over time. And, that really comes from a vision, right? Of seeing other people who are successful. And guess what? I put my pants on the same way you guys do. And there's no magic sauce that I have. And anything that I do, I'm more than willing to share with you guys. And so that's what I realized, like when I started to go to like events and see other successful people like in the flesh, and I could, put my hands on them and give them a hug and touch them. It was like, these are real people. Like if they can do this, why can't I do it? And it's the same thing I want you guys to ask yourself is, if I can do it, if Annie can do it, if Pam can do it, what is stopping you? And most of the time it just becomes the question of, are you getting in your own way? Mm-hmm. Because it is just a mindset shift of realizing like, we're very instant gratification, right? Like we're a microwave society. We want everything to happen right then and there. Mm-hmm. But God is a crock pot, you gotta marinate, and it's a slow cooker, and anything worth having takes a little bit of time. When you're pregnant, that crop takes a while. It takes 9 months, right? For that thing to cook up. And I think you don't realize, because the baby's clearly worth having, and that baby's coming. And it's the same thing in the business. If you're consistent, that is going to come. That success is going to come. It's just a matter of when, and are you willing to continue to put in the work? Okay, go ahead.
No, and I kind of want to actually piggyback on what she said, and it maybe even contradict what she said a little bit, just in terms of her analogy about, kind of putting the coin in or putting the work in. What I've noticed in this business is it's not a business where, you work, you get paid, you work, you get paid, you work. You're going to continue to work hard every day in business. It's just you can get paid more and more and more and more from a similar amount of work. You're never going to work less. In fact, you're going to work more. But when it works well, your payment will start to outrun the work that you put in. But you're never going to work harder on the first day than you work on the 100th day. That 100th day, you're going to be working harder because you're starting to see the results, and you're going to say, I want more. So I'm going to continue to put in additional work. You're never going to your work is never going to decrease while your money increases.
Yeah. And, it becomes obviously, it becomes like more rewarding. You not only are making money, but then you're showing other people how they can make money, and, they're paying off student loans, and they're changing their life, and they're putting food on the table for their kids, and, they're changing the dynamic. A lot of people in this business, they can make more money than their whole family legacy has ever seen, and I think where people can get into trouble is when they view this as a job and not an opportunity. Because, it's not like, I'll see people post all the time. It's like, one decision changed my entire life, right? This one decision to jump into this business changed my life. But what you have to realize is it wasn't one decision, because a lot of people make that one decision and they don't do anything with it. You have to continue to choose this business every single day, and choose your family's future, and choose, all that stuff every single day, because if there's one person you're willing to bet on, it has to be yourself. It has to be yourself. And so it really just becomes a matter of understanding what this business can do, and that, you're not making money for me. You're not making money for Annie. You're making money for yourself. And the fact that you have the opportunity to do that, nobody else is going to care more about your dreams than you do. And so you need to be the hardest worker on your team, because it's your future. And, I could make more money than the girl that signed me up. You can make double the amount Annie makes. It's just a matter of, putting in that work and understanding that this is still work. It's just very simple. And it's so rewarding, because you're working with people and you're teaching them how to, I always say, like, I don't want to teach my kids that I can be successful. I want to teach them that they can be successful, right? And I want to teach them that, like, they're not just going to live off my success, but I want to teach them how to get success themselves. And essentially, that's what you're doing in the business, right? You're teaching and showing people, hey, I can do it. Hey, you can do it too. And I'm going to teach you exactly how you can do it. And that's way more powerful than handing anybody something. Yeah, I can give you the fish that I just fished for, but why don't I just teach you how to fish? You can catch 1,000. So I joined 4 months in. Like I said, my first paycheck was $34. And then I just kept going. And just kept working harder, and my belief kept growing, in the business and in myself. Because there's kind of 3 levels, in my opinion, of the belief that you have, right? So the first level is believing in yourself. The second level is believing in this business. Do people really make money in this business and in this industry? And then I think the third level is believing that you can be successful in this business. And so, that's going to take a little bit of time to develop, and that's okay. You guys can't compare my day 350 to your day 1 or your day 2. So give yourself some grace, because, comparison's the thief of joy. So don't compare it. Stay in your lane and let it be a model for, where you're trying to get to. Don't try to be me. Try to be the best version of you. And if you were better today than you were yesterday, that's a win. And understand that, because so often we have this standard, right? Where this is where we are and this is where we want to be, and we want to be there so bad, and we want to be there so bad, and this is what we're looking at, and these are our goals. But what we forget to do is realize this is where we came from. And this is how far God has brought us. So there's this gap. We always have this gap between the goals. And if you ever hit your goals, you set the next one, right? That's just how life works. But we often forget about how far we were also brought, and how far we've grown, and how much we've grown in a small amount of time, because we're looking left and looking right at who's still in front of us. And that's not bad. You always want to have a worthy rival, and somebody that is setting a pace and setting a standard, right? But you also want to be grateful and understand where you came from, so that you can appreciate how far you've come. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just keep
Where am I
interrupting.
going?
Like after I joined, like my first paycheck was $34, and then I just like went diamond. I went ruby.
Yeah. So, we're certainly jumping around a little bit, but, after that first paycheck continued to grow, and started to promote. And one of the, like I think I said earlier, one of the things that I saw is that her self-esteem really, really grew. She started to grow as a person. And, I think that that's one of the benefits to this business is that it's full of hungry, successful women who want more for themselves. And as they start to progress through this business, something changes in them. And I think that was more exciting than the money, quite honestly, at least early on. That was what was exciting to me. And I saw her putting in the effort. I saw her signing some distributors early on. And when she signed those early distributors, and just like you're going to sign distributors, and you know what? The truth of the matter is, like, for every distributor that you sign, for every 10 distributors you sign, there might be 2 that really work and really invest in the business at the level that you want to. The fact that you're on here tonight says that you're invested in the business, and that's a good thing. But you're going to sign people, especially early on, that they say they want the business, they sign up, they pay their $20 right now or whatever the case may be, and then they don't do anything. They literally, as what do you call them, kid stealers?
Yeah, kidnappers.
They
take the kid.
And then they don't do anything. And then you find yourself trying to pull teeth. You're trying to get them to work the business because you want it for them. You can't want it for them more than they want it themselves. And you start to feel like, did I do something wrong because they're not working the business or whatever the case may be? But I saw that take place. And I saw that she had a couple girls. It was early. Maybe she had 2 girls on her team at this point, and neither of them were putting in any work. And I saw her putting in double time. And I said, okay, we're at a point now where sign me up, okay? Put me on your team. And let's work it that way. And let's be partners in this deal versus you signing customers and you putting customers under somebody who's not putting in any effort to match what you're trying to do. How about you sign those customers and you put them under me? And at that point, we're making double on those customers. And, I think that when we did that, that's when our business kind of started to take off a little bit because it gave her an avenue to where her work meant something because the people that she was, placing, she was placing under our live leg. And not to say that it's not good to place under people, it is. But the people you place under, they need to have personal investment as well. And they need to push themselves forward. If you ever catch yourself continuing to put customers, continuing to put distributors under somebody who's not matching you, then you need to move on. You need to move on to find somebody who's willing to match your effort. And you run, like you say, you got to run with the runners, you walk with the walkers. But when you find people who are willing to match your effort, those are the people that you want to build your business around. You don't want to build your business around legs that aren't willing to work. Because
amen to that.
I like that. Because eventually that house crumbles. Okay. That becomes a 400 box. That becomes something that, like, you're trying to kind of patch that thing up. I've seen people built to diamond. I've seen people built to double diamond. Those people don't last in the business because they didn't have personal investment in them getting to that level. Not to say that anybody's going to do it all themselves. They're not. But you have to have personal investment to be successful for the long term. And help people. But like she said, like when you're teaching somebody how to fish, they have to fish themselves. They have to drop their pole in the water and they have to pull something out in order for you to continue to work with them in that type of way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, obviously, you're going to be the hardest worker on your team, period. That's going to be, you're going to be the most invested for a little bit in your business. But you have to realize that I always say there's people who are just dead on your chart. They're just dead people. Like, they're not doing anything. They're just a name in your box, right? And I always say it's so much easier to birth a new baby than to revive the dead. So go sign another distributor who wants it, because if you are waiting for that person to wake up, you are like prohibiting yourself and another person in your future from benefiting from the business, because you're too busy looking at this box that you can't even see these other people who are in front of you that might be twice as good, right? Because you're so focused on these other people who aren't working. And so a big thing that I've learned is whatever you focus on expands and it gets bigger. So if you're focusing on the people who aren't working, guess what you're going to get? More people who aren't working. But if you focus on the people who are working, you're going to get a lot more people who are working, because your energy is different. I don't know how all that stuff works, but I'm just telling you that it works. And, just realizing that, a lot of times you're not doing anything wrong. But people follow what you do, not really what you say. So if, you're telling other people like, hey, go message people, hey, go sign people. When's the last time they seen you sign somebody? Like, when's the last time they seen you sign? So what are they doing? Like, why would they go get it in somebody's inbox if they don't see you doing it? And how can you tell them what's working if you don't know what's working, because you're not doing it? And so you always you'll hear people say lead from the front, which just means like leading by example. And first, before you are a leader in this business, you have to lead yourself. Mm-hmm. And you have to know, and that's going to be, your life is always changing. Like, in this business, like, I've gotten pregnant, I've had a kid, we've moved 2 times, my husband switched jobs. Like, there has been big life changes, but I've been able to to have this business to work around those life changes. I don't have to work my life around a job. I work my job around my life. And that's the beauty of what we do, is that it's work, but you're your boss. Like, you're the boss of you. You'll see some people make posts of like, thank God my boss let me go get a manicure today. I'm the boss, and just like little things like that you don't, I've been at jobs where you have to time out for bathroom breaks. You have to, you get X number of minutes for bathroom breaks, and you get, X number of minutes for, a regular, like a lunch break. And if you miss it, you don't get paid, or whatever the case might be. But knowing that the freedom that comes with this is really, you can't put a price tag on it, but it also requires self-discipline. Like, it requires you being the boss of you, which sounds good, but a lot of people in that transition, it's hard, because you have to manage your time and realize like, hey, you got to get this done. You still have other things that you need to get done, but you really have to manage your time.
Which is something we talked about today. Quite honestly, we talked about what is a realistic amount of time that needs to be dedicated to this business in order to be productive. And that, there's no easy answer. And that's for sure. And we just kind of talked back and forth about, I don't know that you can say that it's an hour or 2 hours or whatever the case may be. I don't know that there's a specific number, because everybody operates differently. But you do have to understand that whatever you put into it, that's what you're going to get out of it. If you say that I'm going to put in an hour every day, okay, that's fine, but you can't expect to put in an hour every day and then be a double diamond in the business. It's not realistic, because there's too much that goes into being a next level person in this company that can't quite honestly be accomplished in that amount of time. Because not only is this business a numbers game in terms of messaging and commenting and doing those things, but it's also a relationship business. You can't put a time limit on how long a conversation is going to be with somebody when you're building a relationship, when you're talking to a potential, when you're talking with a member of your team. That is all work. And that's all stuff that takes time. And you might end up having a conversation that lasts for an hour. That doesn't mean that, well, I had a conversation for an hour today, but guess what? I didn't message anybody, so I'm done for the day. That's not, you're not going to be successful in that way. So you have to understand that there is going to be some hard things that you have to do. And when I say hard, I mean specific numbers, X amount of messages, X amount of comments, X amount of, interactions. But then there's the personal side of the business that's conversations, that is development, that you can't honestly put a time limit on in terms of how much time that's going to take throughout your day in order to make yourself a success.
Yeah. And just like investing in people, this is a people business. The best part about the business is the people, and the worst part about the business is the people, right? Because there's some people you just don't want to deal with. And then there's other people like you guys who like are just so humble and so gracious, and that makes it easy to pour time into you guys. But it really is just understanding that if you want to be in the top 1%, you have to do what only 1% of people do.
Absolutely.
Like you can't just be like, oh, everybody else is putting in 30 minutes to an hour a day. That's what I'm going to do. But not everybody else has the same goals you have. And so you have to be, okay, like I have to understand that, if I want to live like 1% lives, like if I want to be a millionaire, an average millionaire, you're making $500 an hour. So was my $500 an hour worth it, what I just did? And, did I just make myself $500? That for me is something that I ask myself a lot, is like, was I just dilly-dallying, or did I actually get stuff done? So that's a question. And then also asking yourself, if my team did what I did today, would they make money? And I ask myself that a lot too, because it's very easy, as you grow in the business and you get a team, to do the things you like to do. Trust me, I'm guilty of this. As Brian shakes his head of, I love leadership. I love pouring into people, but sometimes like the tasks, that's the stuff that's like a little bit harder for me, right? Like, it's like, okay, I got to send out these messages, and believe it or not, there's things that, I don't really love doing in the business, but guess who does it anyway? Me. I do it anyways, because I know that that's what it takes to be successful. So, and I know you have to do what only 1% of people do if you want to live like only 1% of people live. Mm-hmm. Like that lifestyle or what you desire. Now, if you want to be the 78% of people that live paycheck to paycheck or whatever, then do what the masses do. But just kind of understanding what it takes, and that success mindset of, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to be successftill. And for me, that's kind of like the approach that I've taken, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would.
Of just like, if it takes me staying up, till midnight, I'm going to do that. Like, because it's worth it to me. Like, if it takes me, getting up early, which I'm not the best at. This is hard for him to wake me up sometimes, but like, you just find a way to get it done. Just like, how many times have you guys like hopped on, like you're watching Netflix, you're about to go to bed, and you're like, dang, I forgot to brush my teeth. And it's about to be really grimy if you don't brush your teeth. So even though you don't feel like it, you get up and you go brush your teeth. And you do that because there's consequences if you don't. And even though the consequences of not working your business aren't immediate, like the next morning, you're going to feel that in your business at some point, if that makes sense. And so you just kind of want to always remember that in this business, I think we work on like I would say like probably like a 3-month like delay. So you're not getting, like, if somebody comes to me and they're like, Kels, I signed like 3 distributors today and 4 customers. You know what I do? I say, congratulations. That's freaking awesome. But you didn't do that today. You did that from the seeds that you planted 2 weeks ago, 5 months ago, whatever. Because if you go back and look at those conversations, I'm sure that today wasn't the first time you talked to them. You've been having an ongoing conversation. So you still need to plant your seeds. So you still need to do those things. So in the future, you can continue to be successful. And, you know, I don't want to like scare you guys and make you think that this business is so hard. Like it's really not. Like the work you do is not rocket science. You know, you're sitting on your couch messaging people, you know, talking to people about this business that can change their life. Like,
and talking about the products that can change their life.
Yes. And talking about the products that can change their life. But you don't like, you know, it's just time that you put into it, just like anything else. You know, in a relationship, you have to put time in. Like in marriage, you have to put time in, and whatever it is, like you're just going to put that time in. So I think I've just kind of taken the approach of, you know, some days, like, you know, for instance, if I'm traveling with my kids, it's a hot freaking mess. So I might only put 30 minutes, 45 minutes in because that's all I can do that day. But I know that I've done the work in the past so that if I have a day like that, it's okay. It's okay. And so those are the things, because, you know, you have to keep that order of what's figuring out like what's most important to you.
One thing I like to do is I like to change gears a little bit, because I've been on a lot of Zooms and I've listened to hundreds of Zooms and sometimes it can get a little redundant and it can become a little bit preachy from our standpoint as we're talking to you guys. So I want this to become a little bit more interactive than us just, you know, kind of preaching and, you know, giving you our dissertation on why we think that you guys can be successful, and allow you guys to ask us any questions that you might have, because it's kind of what do you need from us to help you become more successful? You know, whether it be a question that's, you know, directed towards me from a male standpoint, or whether it's a specific question you have for Kelsey, or whatever the case may be, that's answering your questions to us that you might have that could, you know, one little thing that's more valuable than us just kind of making this into a pep rally, because that's not always the best way to forward your business. You know, it's certainly good and we like doing that, but you know, when we have an opportunity to talk to people, we want to, you know, answer their specific questions and not just tell you what we think. So hopefully somebody has a question.
I have a question.
Okay, go.
So let's say if down the road, like you build your volume and everything, you have a lot of distributors under you, and then one specific distributor decides like, oh no, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't think this is for me. And yet they have a lot of customers underneath them and other distributors. So if that distributor leaves, what happens to the people that's underneath that person?
See, that's a great question.
Do they get moved to under the active ones, or do we lose them too?
No. So the distributor and the customers that are in your organization always remain in your organization. So you're always going to get paid on that volume. Okay. So nobody like ever leaves that organization. Like you can have distributors and customers who have canceled accounts that you're not getting paid on anymore. Right. But they're not going to ever like leave. You're not going to get paid on that. If somebody orders in your organization, you're always going to get some sort of commission off of that. Let's say, so this is kind of where it gets confusing, but we have a thing called compression. Okay. So with distributors, how that works is, let's say, for instance, let's use an easy example. So let's say, I sign Brian, and then I place, Annie and Julia under Brian. Okay. They're both on his top line. Well, if Brian quits, one of those legs can come up, but not both of them, if that makes sense. So you can only ever have somebody from one leg. So they don't just both compress to your top line and then it's two separate legs, because it's still just considered one leg. And then the people who, let's say I chose Annie and anybody under her can all compress up with her, but her sideline can't compress.
Like the person that was next to her, like yes. Julia.
But you still get paid on that person though.
Yes, you still get paid on that person, but just on your chart, you don't, like, it wouldn't just bump up next to each other.
Or like it won't create another another thing. Oh, okay.
Great
Thank
question.
you. That makes so much sense now. Thank you.
Yeah, and if like there's a specific situation too, you can always message me and I can help you just to like verify, because I know it can kind of be confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, good question though.
I go now.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys have been doing this for quite some time now, and you're really successful at it. Tell me, if you could go back in time and you start this business all over again, what would be one thing, only one thing that you would change to make your business be even more successful?
I might need a second to think about that. We have been in the business for 4 years, almost 4 years at this point. And that is a great question that I feel like we need to flesh out a good answer for that, because that is something that that we need to answer more often.
I think for me it would be giving up the dead earlier.
Yeah, I agree with that. From my perspective, watching you.
Yeah, is like truly like I just feel like I'm not like a super emotional person, but I am a very loyal person. And so when I like am working with somebody, it's hard for me to stop working with them when they just kind of pull back from the business. And that happens, life happens to people, and, people have miscarriages, people get divorced, you name it, like things happen to where, the business has to take a back seat for a second. And I think a lot of times I was trying to save people, and it really had a negative effect on my business. And so just kind of being aware that I wasn't leaving that person, and I'm not a bad person for making a business decision. Because I think I felt guilty. And it took me long, especially like going from diamond to double diamond, I think was probably the biggest time that I had trouble with it, because when I went double, I shot myself in the foot, because I used somebody as the emerald that I basically built every single person on that chart, and it all came crumbling after I went double, and then I had to rebuild that leg. And so it's way easier to rebuild a ruby than it is to rebuild an emerald. And so just kind of understanding that part of it, I think would have allowed me to move forward faster in the business. And that is definitely something that I would look back and say. And then also just working harder during momentum. Because this momentum that we have right now, it's not always like this. I'm just going to be honest. And so, I think in probably the year I joined, there was a ton of momentum like this. But I really haven't totally felt it like that until probably now. And when it's here, you gotta run. And, when it's not, you just kind of wish you had it back and you would have done more during that time. So I think, just keeping that excitement and being okay, being excited about being excited and letting yourself kind of feel that. So that's probably the biggest thing.
I would say, to piggyback on what she said, from my perspective in watching her really grow in the business, we talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, working the business 80% your own personal business and 20% your team. And I think that finding that balance, I think at times has been difficult for her, because she is such a people person, quite honestly. And she fully commits to the people, and she takes it to heart. When she signs somebody and she says, I want to walk you through this business, I want to grow with you through this business, I want to help you through this business, she means that. Now, what I think at times has happened is she maybe didn't allow people to grow and almost force them out of the nest and to make them fly on their own as much as she probably could have. Mm-hmm. And because I think that when you force people to fly, then they either fly or they fall. And the ones who fly, those are the people who are going to be successful in the business, and they're going to fly. It wouldn't matter if she didn't do the business anymore. They're going to fly on their own. The people who fall, they were the people who, like she said, are dead weight, that they weren't fully invested anyway. And, they were in the business because of a relationship, or they were in the business because of a friendship. They weren't in the business because of what they wanted for themselves. So I think that having that understanding that as your business continues to grow, you still have to stay in your own lane and grow your business, regardless of when you get to the point when you have hundreds of people on your team. You still have to focus on the same things, whether you're an ambassador diamond in this business or whether you're an executive in this business, a distributor, or a triple diamond. You still have the same things. You still have to meet the same requirements on a day-to-day basis, a month-to-month basis. You still have to hit those benchmarks in order to be successful. So your own, when I was talking about earlier, you still have to work the same way, but you can make more money. The steps to success don't change whether you're an executive or whether you're an ambassador. You still need to fill your steps to success every single month. And if you do that every single month, you will be successful in the business. Now, when you fill your steps to success as an ambassador, you're going to make way more money than as an executive. But you're still doing the same thing. That's that 80% that you have to focus on your personal business and allow that 20% to be your team.
Yep. And that's hard. I mean, that's hard, especially if you're a people person like me, because I mean, it's so rewarding when you're building relationships and you love the people that you're working with. But just understanding that you're not helping them by like being a crutch, by having those pep rally conversations. By
answering questions that people should know to find the answer themselves.
Right.
Those are things you can't answer the same question to somebody who's an executive and answer that same question when they're a diamond. They have to find that answer for themselves. And they need to be helping their executives find that answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And this is the last thing I'll say for this question, but if you want to be a diamond, you don't become a diamond when you're a diamond. You become a diamond when you're a ruby, because that's how you're going to get to diamond. So you have to start acting like a diamond and do what diamonds do as a ruby in order to get to diamond. You don't just all of a sudden, like, it's different than a corporate world where it's like, oh, you're a manager and now you just start acting like a manager. That's not how this works. It's you start acting like the diamond before, and then you will become the diamond. That is something that I've also learned in the business is, I need, like, there's something I'm not doing that an ambassador diamond does that I still have to learn, which is why I'm not an ambassador diamond, or I'm doing what an ambassador diamond does and right now, and that will pay off, and I will become an ambassador diamond because of what I'm doing today. So you just have to take on that what's next mentality and focus on that.
Great question though, Pam. Thank you for asking that.
I got another one. Sorry.
No. Don't apologize.
How can you tell, like, let's say you invest all their time into your distributors and your loyal customers. How can you tell when a distributor is, you can just tell right off the bat from looking at your charts that the distributor is dead weight already? Like, they're not putting, nothing. And you've tried to, like, bring them up to, like, as you're going along to with your other distributors, you try to tell her, like, hey, when you're ready to sit down to talk about this, we can do that. But how can you tell that you can just feel like, like, oh, it's dead weight already, like, can't do nothing, you can't move on forward because this person's not putting in their end? Like, how can you, when's the right time for you to know when to stop?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even bothering, like, wasting your time, trying to bring them up, but instead, like, they're just thinking, oh yeah, using excuses kind of thing but still they still want to stay in the business at the same time.
Yeah. One thing that I do is when people maybe aren't they're just not being receptive to me, or they're not excited. Like, one thing I'll do is I'll just say, hey, whenever you're ready, I'm going to be here. And just put the ball in their court, because, you don't ever want people to feel like, I never want people to feel like they weren't important or that they are working for me. So a lot of times, like, you just have to go back to why they joined, right? And so remind them of why they joined. And so it's really helping them see what this business can do for them. And that starts with you believing in what the business can do for you and you talking about that. Because this is an example I give a lot is, okay, this is an analogy that I use. Let's say you really want to go to Florida, because I'm going to use Florida because that's a lot farther than California for you guys. So let's say you really want to go to Florida and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have always wanted to go to Florida. I want to go to Disney World. And like, that is just something that like I've always wanted to do. I'm super excited about it. And let's say that like, you fly to LA and you're going to rent a bus and you're going to drive. Okay. And you are just so excited about it. And you tell like a bunch of your friends, you're like, hey, anybody wants to come? Like I'm going to Florida. If you want to come, let me know. Right. And so all these people call you and they're like, yep, I want to come. Yep, I want to come. Yep, I want to come. So you're just going to go pick them up all across the country. Right. And let's say you stop and, you stop in San Diego, and you're like knocking on somebody's door and they're just not answering. They told you they were going to come, but they're just not answering. You cannot wait because you still have other people to pick up now. And then, you're going to stop in Texas and you're going to pick up somebody else and they might hop in the car, but they might get off the bus at a different spot too, because they might not feel like Florida's important or life happens or whatever the case might be. But just because other people don't see it doesn't mean that you still don't want to go to Florida, right? That doesn't change anything about the fact that you want to go to Florida. Like if somebody comes or nobody comes or 10 people come or 1,000 people come, you still want to go to Florida the same amount. Okay. And you were just nice enough to bring them along. And so when you get there, you're going to be posting pictures. You're going to be talking about how great it is. And those same people are going to call you and be like, okay, I want to come. Like, I'm ready to come. And you're still going to give them directions. And you're going to say, great, this is how I got there. This is where we're staying. Come, you're more than welcome. You're going to include them in everything, right? But if you never would have gone or moved forward, they never would have known how great it was from you, right? And so that's the thing I want you guys to focus on is where you're going, because even in the Bible, it says without a vision, the people will perish. And that vision has to be so strong for you. And then other people are going to see that vision because it's just contagious. That energy that you have, that excitement that you have, that's contagious. And it might not be today that they see it. It might be 2 weeks from now. It might be a year from now. It might be however long, but it can't make your light dull just because somebody else doesn't see what you see. And so with those people, like the biggest thing I do is I just say like, hey, I just want you to tell me why you joined the business. And then I get pretty deep with them. Like I ask them like why, to ask themselves the why 5 times. Okay. So to give you an example, I wanted to join for $500. Well, why did I want to join? Why was $500 important to me? $500 was important to me because I wanted to get my hair and my nails done without us arguing about it. Okay, why was that important to me? It was important to me because I wanted to have a healthy marriage and I didn't want finances to be something that we thought we fought about all the time. I wanted to do the things that we wanted to do. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go buy Teslas and Louis Vuittons every day, but that means that like if we wanted to go out to eat with friends, we could do that. And we weren't always a slave to what our bank account said. And so why was that important to me? Well, that's kind of how I grew. Like I grew up with like money never really was like a huge issue. And so that's the standard that was created for me. And I wanted to create that for my kids. So you see how the $500 went a lot deeper because I just kept asking myself why. And your $500, your reason for joining, when you keep asking yourself, will become deeper too. You just haven't sometimes dug that deep because it's a little bit scary and you have to be vulnerable. And when you dig deep, it's like, oh crap, but I put that out there that I want it. If I don't have it, I don't want to be disappointed. But you also will never have it if you don't ever figure out what you want. Because most people in life don't get what they want because they have no idea what they want.
One thing that I'll add to that, and from more of like a nuts and bolts standpoint, is you said it. Like when someone's making a ton of excuses, that's a telltale sign that they're not fully invested. Okay. So if somebody continues to tell you that I'm going to call you at such and such time and they don't call, let's Zoom at this time, they're unavailable. That's a telltale sign that they're not fully committed. The second thing is the steps to success. It's something that we've always talked about. It's something the business talks about, like signing distributors and signing customers. If you are sending out messages consistently, you are following up, you are talking to people, you can sign customers and you can sign distributors. Now, if you have somebody who goes, an extended period of time without signing customers or distributors, and they're telling you that, they're doing those things, that's not true. That's not true. That's an excuse that they're making because they're not fulfilling the things on the back end that allows them to produce those type of results. And I'm not saying that, for every, X amount of messages equals X amount of customers. But if you are continuing to hit the hammer, eventually you're going to put the nail into the piece of wood. And if you have somebody who's never signing people, never signing customers, never signing distributors, never meeting the steps of success, making a ton of excuses, that's a person who's dead. And that's a person you should move on from. And, to kind of piggyback off her before, we can continue is, again, if they're not doing those things, leaving them is actually the best thing you can do for them. Because it alleviates you because you can move on to somebody else. But B, it allows them to figure out what they really want. Because they might just be having the conversation, making excuses with you because they feel obligated. But once you move on, it allows them, A, to say, well, damn, I actually really did want this. And I know the blueprint in order to get this. I need to get back on the horse and start doing these things in order to get back on that bus. Or I'm just going to fizzle out and it's not something that was that important to me anyway. But either way, they'll never find that out if you continue to try to reel them in.
Yep. And one thing that if you guys don't follow Pam Souter, she's like the chief networking officer for It Works. One thing I learned from her is she said, you can't afford to take time away from bringing in new blood. Example, welcome them and say, go do this and get back to me when it's done. Okay. If you don't get back to me, I'm going to assume one of three things. Number one, you've quit. Number two, you need more time. Or number three, you didn't understand. Okay. And if they don't come back to you, don't waste your time. If they do, then they're a player and play ball with them. And so, maybe it's a 3-strike you're out system for you. Maybe, you try for 3 times or whatever, is kind of your deal. But you have to understand, like, at some point it's their business. And it's your business too, but at some point it's their business too, and they have to take ownership and responsibility. And so when you're clear with that communication of what you expect, people rise up, or like you said, they fizzle out. And another thing is when people come to you, a distributor comes to you, this is something else she said, is if a distributor in your organization comes to you and says, I'm struggling, recommend a book for them to read. Okay. And there's a bunch of books, but that you can recommend, but recommend a book for them to read. The next time they come to you and they say they're struggling again, ask, how's that book going? And if they haven't even ordered the book, don't work with them. If they have, even if they haven't read it, then keep pouring into them. Because if someone comes to you and asks where to find the ingredients, tell them, but do not just give them the ingredients. And I think that's like, that's the whole key when you're talking about leadership, because you want to develop layered leadership. There's going to be a point in your organization where you can't touch every single person. You just physically can't. So you're going to have to develop the leaders that can keep the culture of what you want to create to places you can't even touch.
Like Hawaii.
But I get to touch all you guys. We got to make a trip out there. Brian's been there, but I've never been there.
I almost got bit by an eel. It was horrible.
Where?
I was snorkeling off of Waikiki Beach, and a eel came out of a piece of coral, and it scared the hell out of me. I might be scarred for life.
You were in his territory.
You're right, and I'll be sure not to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to come to the countryside.
Yeah, you just tell me where there's no eels.
North Shore, right there.
We done?
Okay, I have a question about DT. Right, can a DT be downgraded to an LC?
They can. They can turn off their website.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not paying the $20, and then their account really wouldn't cancel until like their year comes up, and then if they're inactive, that their account would just cancel out. But if they want to downgrade to an LC, I think they would just have to use a different email address.
Okay, so since how do you call that? You know when Longa was saying about DT who's like not into the business no more, and that DT have 3 legs, and then all 3 legs. What if all 3 legs are active? Excuse me, hold on. What if those 3 legs are very active, and that DT doesn't want to do no more? Since you say Annie can make it to the top, but me, I can't. What about me and the other person, like me and Chloe? We're still active. Where do we go?
Okay, so if there's a person, is this person under you or above you?
Under me.
Okay, so if they're under you and then there's 3 people, are they all on her top line?
Yeah, like for example, what you said, like if this is Brian, and then this is me, Annie, and then Chloe. So Brian doesn't want to do the job no more, right? And then us 3, we're still active. We're very active legs. So Annie can go up, but what about me and Chloe that are very active too? Where do we go? Where do we stand?
So you would still like, I would still, if Brian's under me, he quits. I would still get paid on all that volume, and that volume is helpful because now you need a volume at a certain amount to promote. And so you would I would personally still work with you and Chloe and develop you, help you chart, help you do all that stuff. And then it's kind of like I pull up with
whoever,
right. I pull up one of those legs, you know what I mean? Like that is farthest along. That's going to help my chart the most. And it's not really based on who I like the best. It's based on who's the furthest along in the charting process and in the volume process, but you still get paid on those outside legs. But on a chart, only one of those legs can be used.
But that doesn't mean that you don't want those people to become diamonds or double diamonds or whatever, because that still is a benefit, a huge benefit. And you want diamonds and double diamonds, et cetera, in your organization, because once you become diamond and other people hit diamond who are in your organization, especially if they're personally enrolled, that's when you can really start to reap some serious financial benefits from that.
Yep.
So when she says that, she pulls up one person, that's just from a charting standpoint. That's not from a standpoint of value or who's worked with. It's just because a chart is structured in a certain way. Only one person can fit in a certain box. It doesn't mean that other people who are on that leg can be, a mile wide. All those people have value, and all those people, as long as they are working, will be worked with.
Yeah.
And will be pushed to be successful. And the
that's
beauty
happened a lot on my charts. And
the beauty of the business is you create your own destiny, your own success. It really doesn't matter if you get pulled up or not. Somebody can get pulled up because Kelsey or whoever thinks that they're going to become a diamond, guess what? You or whoever who wasn't quote unquote pulled up, you might become a double diamond. Then guess what? You jump that spot and you get pulled in. When she says pulled up, that's just like a it's a name in a box. It's not an actual person getting moved anywhere. Anybody can get put in that box depending on where they're at in the situation. And it can change. It's fluid.
Yes. So you're not like manually doing it in the system. That's just who makes the most sense in your chart. But that's how it works. Like, you can only pull up. And to be honest, I think I only have one or two people who are like on my top line that like I place there that who I'm using for promotion purposes because, somebody 6 lines down is working way harder than anybody above them, and they're enrolling customers, enrolling distributors. They're the hardest working person right there, and that's who I'm working with.
And they might be 6 lines deep.
Yeah, they might be 6 lines deep. But that's the beautiful thing about the business is, you get to work with who's working.
I hope that answered your question.
Annie, did you have like questions, like questions that we didn't answer?
I don't know. I know it's like super late over there. And I really appreciate y'all's time. Like, I'm so sorry for keeping you guys up.
No, we're fine. I just want to make sure that we get everything answered.
I do have one question because the girls definitely, were able to ask their questions. But I just want to talk about someone, DT or a potential DT that I've talked to. They basically said like, well, I want to join, but I don't want to join your team. Like, I just want to start my own thing. And I was like, okay, well, I was not confused, but I was curious to like why and how they would feel like that. And she basically said, well, because I don't want you to make money off me. And I was like, girl, I don't make money off you. I don't take anything from you. Like, you are the start. Because she said, well, it's like a pyramid scheme, right? I was like, no, it's not a scheme. Yes, it's a pyramid, but it starts with you. So my question is this: how would you say that you would have been able to make it in this business on your own? Like, obviously you're going to need people, but like with that mindset, like, would it have been possible? I don't know.
So the way that, like, if you're talking about make it on your own from a standpoint of support, probably not, because I would have no idea what to say to people. And like, I don't know, like I was screenshotting Erin, like blowing up her phone for the first 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, like I kind of got it because the flow of the conversation is pretty similar, or you get the same responses. But the thing that I tell people when they talk about it being a pyramid is I say, the pyramid schemes are actually illegal. Okay. So we would be shut down if we were a pyramid scheme. We wouldn't have been around for, 17, 18, 19 years, if we were a pyramid scheme. The second thing is, I'm never going to make more money off of you than you're making for yourself. Okay. So you're making the most money. I'm benefiting because I'm helping you become successful. Now, 5 to 10% of people probably would become successful like without help, because there's resources like on YouTube and whatever that, you're just going to be like totally a self-starter. But it's kind of like, why are you making it harder for yourself than it needs to be?
And the thing about it is, whenever she gets to the point where, she signed her 4 customers and she wants to take her business to the next level, the only way that she can take her business to the next level is if she signs distributors and brings people onto her team. And that's just the way, it's the structure of the business. Like, unless you only want to sign customers and like, that's all you want to do, which some people do that, they're just an independent person and they sign 1 million customers, but you're not going to be able to maximize the compensation plan when you just do it by yourself. So my biggest thing was I would help her understand how it works, like Kelsey said, and help her understand that as you grow in the business, it is your own personal business. I am not your boss. It is your business. It is your website. But when you are ready to grow your personal business, you are going to do it by bringing in other people into your organization. And it's not because it's a pyramid. It's not because you're making more money than them. And guess what? You can tell her, if you are successful in this business, you can make more money than me.
Mm-hmm.
You can pass me in this business but the only way you're gonna be able to do that is if you have distributors under you who are working with you.
And the way I explain it is nobody can run a bank by themselves. You have employees. And not that you guys, anybody under me is an employee, but the difference is this is actually not a pyramid scheme if you think of a pyramid, because like he said, like somebody under me could make more money. I could never make more money than the CEO of my bank, ever. Okay. So when you're thinking about a pyramid, it's a CEO, it's a regional manager, it's a district manager, then it's, the bank, the branch managers, and then it's the bank tellers, right? So that's more of a pyramid type structure than what this business is. And to if you the way I explain it to people is, okay, if you're a pharmaceutical sales rep, let's say you go to 4 doctors, okay, and you offer the drug to 4 doctors and you get them to purchase stuff, but you're going to run out of time. And you're going to run out of time. And so if you are a pharmaceutical sales or territory manager and you teach 4 other people to do exactly what you're doing, that's 20 doctors that you're reaching, and you're teaching other pharmaceutical sales reps to do that. And, if you have to be where your money is made, you haven't truly learned how to make money. Because your time is limited. You can, if you're getting paid by the hour, you can't ever make or get rich off of that, because there is a limited amount of time, which means there's a limited amount of money. Okay. So when you realize you don't have to be exactly where your money is made, then guess what? That's when you can truly become wealthy. So hopefully that helps answer the question, and definitely some things that you can bring to her attention and just let her know hey, I'm not making money off of you or taking anything away. Like you said, I get to teach you and help you be successful, because I could sign up 100 people, but guess what? If I'm the definition of a pyramid scheme is there's no exchange of products. So most people get what their definition is from somebody else who told them. They haven't done their own research. And so when you kind of tell them hey, the definition of a pyramid scheme is there's no exchange of products. I'm just getting you to sign up to get you to sign up to get you to sign up, and nobody's actually getting a product. That's when it's a scheme, because nobody's getting it. But we actually don't make any money if we don't have customers
purchasing products.
Okay. So I'm not getting a fast start. I'm not getting anything unless somebody is purchasing products. So that's the way I kind of explain it to people.
Yeah, no. And I just told her there's a team, because we're here to help you. If anything, I want you to be 20 steps ahead of when I started, even though I was a few steps ahead, because thanks to you, Kelsey. But, everyone that joins, I'm okay, here's what you get to do. Yeah, but I guess, everyone has their own experience. So. But thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, you're welcome. Chloe, I think Chloe had a question, and so I've good for her signing a DT. But I feel bad because I don't know what her question was.
Okay, I don't really have a question, but it's need of an advice from you too. You know how we have people who joined before us, but now they don't want to be in the business no more. And they see us post stuff about the business, and they comment under saying that this business will steal your money and so on. But, it kind of hit us to the point that we just want to hop in a screen and grab that person, But we just want a best advice from you to motivate us to continue to do the business. What's your best advice for us?
Well, we don't have time for negativity. Okay. And you will never get criticized by somebody who's done more than you. Okay. And never take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with. and understand that, you know, people, it's like people who, you know, you get a gym membership. The gym is not a scam because you didn't go to it. Like that's not like how this works. Like just because you didn't work it. And, you know, this doesn't work for people who don't work it. You can't get skinny by joining the gym and not doing anything at the gym. Okay. So, understanding kind of where people are at and who you're getting advice from. It's like, you're not going to take marriage advice from somebody who's been divorced 6 times. Okay. So understanding the source of where that's coming from and not trading, like being like, okay, you're broke. I'm not going to take business advice from you. Like straight up, like I'm just not. So understanding who the source is really important, and just kind of understanding.
Evaluate your own personal experience.
Yeah. And just trusting that and understanding like nobody else's opinion should really, like everybody has an opinion, right? But you don't have to take that as counsel. Okay. You choose who you take counsel from. You don't get to choose who tells you their opinion. But I will tell you that every single person who's made an impact in this world has gotten criticized. Okay. If you think of the most famous people, think of people who have changed the world or changed, you know, whatever, they are the ones that have gotten criticized. So you can either be liked by everybody or make an impact, but you really can't have both.
On a smaller scale, there's been a ton of people that have criticized her, you know, family members who, when she's decided to start the business, you know, laughed at her, you know, told her that, you know, they were going to unfollow her on social media because she was blowing up their timelines, this, that, and the third.
Made posts about,
you know, negative stuff, not just a comment here or there, but posts. And these are family members, longtime friends from high school, whatever. Those are the same people now who are, wow, your success is so awesome. I love following you. It's amazing. It's the same people who 3 years ago were the naysayers. So, like she said, just think about the source and think about what you want out of it. And, you know, use your own experiences as your guide.
There's a quote. It says, hustle until your haters ask if you're hiring.
Nana, did you hear that? Annie? Oh my gosh. Yes, amen to that.
So it's just like, you know, it's always going to happen. You know, if you don't have negativity, you're probably not making an impact or doing enough, because the devil's not threatened by you. So hopefully that helps.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I know someone who actually used to be a distributor with a different team, but they actually want to continue into our team. Like they want to sign up, but as a distributor for us. How do we actually do that? Like, would they have to log in again or just restart as like under a different email address and everything?
So how it works is it's all based on your social, okay, for distributors. And so they have to actually have like a canceled account for 3 months before they can rejoin. Okay, so if they've had a canceled account, they can release their social, because it was a while ago, but they have to cancel the account. And they do that because there's obviously in everything, there's always bad apples. And so they don't want people like paying other people to leave that team so they can be on their team or whatever. So that is kind of to protect us from having people who just jump or, you know, I mean, there's going to be times when you don't necessarily agree with something that I do or agree with something Annie does. And you don't want to have people hanging over your head. Oh, I'm just going to quit and move my team to this person or whatever. And so that's kind of why that rule is in place, but it's 90 days from when their account was canceled before they'll release the social.
You don't take it on their husband up and redo it or something if they need to.
Yeah, and sometimes what can happen is if that person is canceled but they want to start right away, they can actually like sign their husband up first and then sign themselves up after that 90 days.
Under their husband.
Yes, under their husband. So it's just like flip-flopped order.
So then you got a double account like we get. Like most people do.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, you know, that's what I'm there for.
Okay, and then I do have one more question. I actually became friends with someone from a different team, and she said that they kind of don't allow us to go into our like social medias because it's like going into someone else's territory kind of thing. But after we kind of talked a bit, we thought about going live together, but the only problem is we might be like, I don't know if that's like kind of overstepping, and I'm not sure if it is. I mean, we all do work in the same business, so I was just wondering if that's ever an issue, if we ever end up becoming friends with someone from a different team.
I mean, I have so many friends from people who are sidelines or just from different teams. And the way we handle it is like, let's say we did a live together or something, because I've done lives with like sidelines. And the way we handle it is like, first off, you want to be able to make sure you trust that person, you know, but second off, you also like whoever is friends with the person that comments, like that's your territory, if that makes sense. So like, you know, if it's one of her friends, that's somebody that she's, you know, it has rights to, or, you know, if you invited. Now, if it's one of your friends, you know, she can't come in and be like, hey, you know, I know you watched the video with me and Nana, like, you know, I mean, I think like you just kind of use common sense and make it to where it makes sense. Like it just makes sense if that happens. But I mean, the first thing is making sure you trust them. And then the second thing is, you know, having integrity yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And tell Chloe too, if she like has a question, that she can just message me and I'd be happy to answer it.
Okay. Oh, I do have a question for Brian. Because my husband is also in the business now. He's kind of entertaining our son right now. But do you have any like special advice that you'd give him, or like any of our husbands that join? Because I know Annie's husband is also in the business. What would be like your best advice to give them to like be a part of this business and to kind of support us too? Because that's pretty important to me as well.
But I think that the one thing that I would say is that as a husband, you have to find your niche. And you have to find what you can do to provide value in the business. My value in the business is not signing or messaging, or I don't have, not to say I'm not interested in it, but that's not my strong suit. I am way more valuable at this than I am at that. And so, you know, I allow that to be my niche. I'm a coach by nature. So I coach her in a lot of ways, and I help her grow and give her, you know, I serve as wise counselor for her, just in terms of business decisions and choices and when to let people go. And, you know, those are the kind of things that I am better at than the signing, the commenting, those type of things, the more traditional pieces of the business. So I think that from a female standpoint, I think that it's also behoove you to figure out what your husband or significant other's strong suit is and help them to grow in that arena. You know, if you expect your husband to get on Facebook and to, you know, send out a bunch of messages and that kind of thing, you guys are going to bump heads, because that's most likely not going to be his strong suit or his comfort zone. But finding a place where he can have value and a place where he can help you in some ways, I think that that's the best thing. The best way to allow a husband or a significant other to be a part of the business and to, you know, allow the relationship to work.
I think too, like with him, like guys just typically are less emotional. So like I feel like I make a lot of emotional decisions on placement and different things like that is harder for me to see an objective view. And he has a lot more of an objective view because he's not necessarily building like personal relationships. He's more so seeing it from the outside and seeing who's actually working, who's actually signing people, and can have a little bit more of an objective view. And so from that standpoint, it really helps. And then also like, it's just a big thing about communication of when I have to hop on a Zoom, he might have to put the kids to bed like he's doing right now, entertaining your son while you're gaining knowledge about the business. You know, he, like my husband, like he's really like helped cooking and helped just allow me more time to work the business. And a lot of that just starts with communication and letting you know, like, hey, I'm a little bit stressed, or, you know, I have to get these messages out, or this happened. And just kind of like talking about, hey, you know, this is what I might need from you. And then one thing that we also did is I had him go through his friends list on Facebook to where he just said, like, these are the people that I think you could message. And I tag him in all the posts too. So his whole audience sees it. And so after like a couple months, like they all knew about what I was doing and what we were doing. And so then it allowed that open conversation of, you know, these are the people that he thinks that I could reach out to. And I said, you know, I started a message with, hey, you know, I was talking to Brian and he really suggested that this be something. Cause sometimes it's just awkward if like he reaches out to maybe a single chick that, you know, she's like, this is awkward. Like, you're married. It's like, just might have like an odd thing to it. So just talking about different people that he knows that you might not know, and expanding your network that way.
And the last thing I would say is I think that it's also important in order to serve the place in the business that I serve with her for our business, your husband or significant other has to understand the business. They have to understand how it works. You know, it can't just be you spewing off like, you're on your phone too much, or, you know, what are you talking about? You know, like, you have to understand the business. Like, I understand the compensation plan. I understand, you know, the customers. I understand how distributors work. I understand how charts work. I understand how steps to success works. I understand how all those things work. And it allows me to speak from a position of understanding and a position that, like, when I say something, it has value because I know how the business works. And maybe that's part of it because at the beginning, you know, I was, you know, when she was just getting started, you know, we were kind of doing it together and I was, you know, just kind of in the trenches. But like, when I hear questions, like we say it all the time, like we'll be on Zooms and questions are answered or asked by people who have been in the business for 6-7 months. And I'm saying to her, don't answer that question because that's a question that they should already know the answer to, or they should go find the answer to that question themselves. And I say that because I personally already know the answer to that question myself. And so therefore, I know that they should know the answer and they should have to go out and find those type of answers.
And you can give them the example of like, you know, talking about the dreams and like what you said.
Yeah. And, you know, I was on a panel one time at, you know, in an event that we were at, and it's great that you all have significant others who want to be part of the business and, you know, they're engaged in it and they see you being successful and they want to continue to push you. But there are, you're going to encounter people whose significant others are on the other spectrum. They're going to look at it and say like, you know, this is BS, or this is a pyramid scheme. You're on their phone too much. You know, you're wasting our money. You're going to find all that stuff with some guys. And the thing that I said was that when you encounter those people, a wife should sit down with a husband and say, okay, what are some of the things that we want to accomplish from a financial standpoint? What are some of your goals? What are some of the things that are on your dream board? What would you like to see us be able to do? You know, and you can kind of talk about those things. And then you say, okay, based on the things that you want, that we want, based on what we're doing, do you see us being able to reach those goals? The answer is going to be no, or your dreams are too small. And when you get that answer, then it allows you to say, okay, that is why I am doing this. And this is why I need your help in trying to help us reach our goals.
Yeah. And I think the first thing I put on like our dream board together was like this $300 thing for his golf, like that he loves, and it was something small, but like him knowing that like that's something that I want, and it's not just like that I want to help him get, that is something that he could kind of get on board with and understand, like, dang, like it helps me to support her in understanding that benefit. Okay, how do you persuade someone who was in the business before but neglected and now sees our team and wants in but is afraid to join? What can I say to help persuade her to join or give her that spark that she's looking for? Number one, like our job is not to convince people, and number two, understanding that what her why is and saying like, I want to help you achieve that. And making it more about her and less about you. Because I think that that's definitely something that's helped me, because for so long I was like, join my team. Like, I'm making this much money. You can make it too. Like, people don't care because they're not joining to make you money. They're joining to make themselves money. And so really creating that vision for what they can do to make themselves money, and just seeing, and letting her know that like, I was scared too. I use the feel, felt, found rule. I totally understand how you feel. I actually felt that exact same way before. But what I found was most people felt that way, but they joined in spite of that and realized they really didn't have that much to lose. And what if you fail? But what if you fly? Like, isn't it worth seeing that? Isn't it worth, figuring that part out? So I think that that's probably the way that I would say, and kind of going back to that, I'd rather have an oops than a what if. And I don't want to sit on the sidelines anymore. So that would be my advice when you're talking to somebody, and giving them that spark. But I appreciate you guys, and I know you guys are building like a little empire over there in Hawaii and all on the West Coast, and I'm just so excited for what's to come, and what you guys can do, because it was funny. I ran into actually a girl that was Samoan at conference, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have this whole team. She's like, really? Like, I've never met like any other Samoan people. And I was like, dude, there is so much room to grow.
Is she from Seattle? Or
I don't know where she's from, but she was Samoan, and I just ran into her, and she had a flower in her hair. This is why I asked, because I always see you guys with a freaking flower behind your ear. I was like,
one of my friends in Seattle, her cousin was the one who went to the conference. I think it's that one. It's probably that one.
Small world, as they say.
Yeah.
Yep. Too small.
Chloe, you're back. Did you have
Guess what? I did. I just signed a DT while we Zoomed. So
Good
yeah.
job.
So I'm back.
Okay. I think everybody's questions got answered, but did you have one?
Let's see. I think some of them were asked already. Really, it's more of like the, because I would say honestly, I got my like distributors within the last, well, 2 of them yesterday and today, but the other one within like the last week. So it's kind of like trying to like jumpstart them, and like more of like communicating, because it's like some of them are like also working another job, so it's kind of like the and like I'm not sure like which is like better, how they communicate better, whether it's like on cell phone or like or like Facebook, and like gauging like, okay, are you like lost? Are you okay where I can help you? So it's just kind of like finding trying to find that time to actually talk to them.
Mhm.
Because it's more of like, it's been like, we'll be like, oh, okay, I'm free at this time, but then something pops up, and then yeah. So I think it's just more of like just the beginning stages, and I had a bunch of questions, but I think Kanana answered them for me, and then Julia and Annie. So I think I'm like good. And I asked you a question last night about the like the LC like counseling. Yeah. So I think I'm good. But I just wanted to say hi to you guys. It's nice to like hear from you guys.
Yeah.
I think it's like yeah. I think
I know the 5-hour time difference can sometimes be a little bit difficult, but I'm glad that we were able to chat. And I think, voice messages are lifesavers. I think that's a good tip. But also just like, don't like leave it to guesswork. Just ask them. You know, that was something that I had to learn of like, hey, how do you best communicate? Is text easier? You know, is it better for me to send is it okay? And then asking, you know, hey, when's a good time for you? You know, and just kind of working around that. Because I think that just showing them that you want to put in the effort to help them can go like a long way. And just kind of reiterating and getting personal with what they want out of the business, and understanding that, because when you understand that, you know exactly how to work with them. Like, do they want to go to the top, or are they just in it for, you know, a little bit? Like, are they just in it? And that can also be super helpful when you're asking, and not like leaving it up to trying to read them. And I mean, I'm not good at reading between the lines, so I always ask for like direct communication, so I don't have to create extra work for myself. And you know, don't be afraid to tell people at first what to do. Like, in saying like, hey, we need to get your first post up. Hey, we need to start messaging people, because people are coming from an environment typically where they are being told step by step, and they don't think like an entrepreneur right away. And then that will grow with time. They'll develop that mindset with time. But at first, that clear direction can actually really help them get started.
How old is that baby right there?
What baby?
I feel baby on there.
Over there. How old?
One is baby.
Oh, no, okay. I was just like, I don't see a baby.
2 days. You're already old from
2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
We're trying to see which baby you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we're like, where?
It's a beautiful little baby. Well, first, I just wanted to say, hey, it's been great chatting with you guys. I'll let Kelsey finish up, but great meeting you guys. Pam, great seeing you again. Looking forward to continuing to watch you guys grow. This has been a very engaging Zoom. It really goes to show that you guys are out there in Hawaii doing great things, and I'm really proud of you guys, and have enjoyed spending some time with you guys this evening. So good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much,
Brian.
Yeah, and you guys don't probably know, but he's like 6'9" or 6'8".
Oh, shoot.
Sounded better. You know how tall I am. That was looking exaggerated.
Yeah, I was looking at your pictures. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so tall.
I know. People like, they always just think that he's not that tall, but I'm that small. And I'm like, no. Like, when people meet me, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so much taller than I thought. You look so small in the pictures. And I'm like, no, I'm 5'7". Like, I'm not that short.
So we're the same height. 5'7".
Oh, man.
No, I'm 5'8".
Brian, can you give me some of your height?
I know. We're like 5'2".
I'm like 5'2".
Yeah. He said, you can have it. I don't need it anymore. But he always gets so, like, people always come up to him, how tall are you? Did you play basketball? And he's like, he gets like so frustrated. I'm like, babe, people just want to know. It's fine.
When he came to conference, I didn't feel like a giant anymore.
Yeah.
Well, at least you can wear heels all you want.
I know. I wore like 5-inch heels at our wedding.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's skill.
I know. I mean,
yeah.
It made me look skinnier though, so I was like about that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I am so happy we were able to do this. And I know this was like a super long Zoom, but hopefully you guys took something away from it, and just know that I'm here to help you guys. Like, I'm on your side. Like, I'm your biggest cheerleader. I pray for you guys every single day, and just know that you guys are in good hands with Pam and Cammie and me, and we are just here to be servant leaders to you guys, and we want to help you guys succeed. And that's like my favorite part, is just watching you guys succeed. So don't ever feel like I'm like untouchable, or I'm too busy to answer your questions or whatever. I definitely want to help you guys be the best you can be.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys have a good night.
Good night.